Thank you very much to the administration of the 12th International Conference on Restructuring in the Global Economy towards Sustainability. The paper that I'll be presenting today is the impact of managerial support and effective commitment, a sequential mediation. My co-authors are basically my instructors, Dr. Ghulam Abid and Dr. Alia Ahmed, and I'm really thankful for all their support and guidance throughout my PhD program and helping me out write this paper. I am Dr. Maryam Rehmat, who will be presenting this paper on behalf of all the authors. To start off with, my core variable of interest in this particular research was basically thriving at workplace, which is one of the mediators. So thriving employees at workplace is basically a competitive edge for the employees. Organizations are made of collaborative layers, units, department, teams, divisions, and individuals. There is high degree of interdependence among these layers. There's a top-bottom and bottom-up coordination required for smooth functioning. Thriving workforce is a competitive edge of growing organizations and plays a major role in developing psychologically healthy workplace. The workflows that fails to thrive at its workplace to its full potential is absent from work and has the propensity to quit. At the same time, the new millennials seek more meaning and flexibility from their work. Employees want a job that enables them to thrive rather than survive only. Spritzer has defined thriving at workplace as a positive and desirable psychological state in which employees experience a sense of vitality and learning. Employees who are thriving consider their present experiences and behaviors at work are motivated and supportive of personal growth and self-development. Vitality, a positive feeling of having energy available and feeling alive. And the second dimension of thriving is basically learning, which is a feeling that they are acquiring and are able to apply valuable knowledge skills. So these are basically the two major dimensions of thriving. Now, why was there a need to conduct this particular research? Organizational scholars argue that constructs at the individual level are too simple to take into account the dynamics of organizational phenomena. The individual level thriving does not account for the dynamics of organizational setting, which requires to collaborate with a team or work group. It ignores the social setting in which employees operate. So Ghulam et al. In one of his researches in 2017 calls for future research to investigate other mechanisms that account for the relationship between thriving at work and performance outcomes at different levels of analysis. It is known that thriving at work does play an important role in enhancing work-related outcomes, and there might be other mechanisms at play also. So the research question of my study was, what is the impact of managerial support on effective commitment, and what kind of mediating mechanisms support this particular relationship? Spritzer and his colleagues developed a socially embedded paradigm in which vitality and learning are not stimulated in people's thoughts, but rather in their social interactions. Managerial support at a collective level induces team spirit in followers and nourishes a sense of community, which helps in building high-quality relationships. As a result, the study goal is to discover how managerial system provides group success with a mediating role of thriving, which is calculated at a group level. This study also investigates how pro-social motivation at a collective level leads to collective thriving, and further what positive outcomes in terms of effective commitment are achieved. Literature review was also done. A number of antecedents and consequences of thriving, which have already been researched by different scholars, were studied. Spritzer and his colleagues basically found out that agentic behaviors such as exploration, task focus, and heedful relating are the engine of thriving. Peterson and colleagues identified that individuals with psychological capital thrive more at workplace. Psychological capital includes hope, resiliency, efficacy, and optimism. Wallace et al. In his research found that individuals with high promotion focus are more motivated to exert towards engaging in agentic behaviors, and so on. Klein et al. Found out that proactive personality, positive effect, work engagement are also positively related to thriving. Carmely found out that contextual factors that encourage thriving are attachment and trust with the organization. Vine et al. Identified family support as a key ingredient of thriving. Peterson et al. Identified colleague and employee support as a key ingredient of thriving also. Abid in his research found out that job characteristic model, which has 5 major components: skill variety, task identity, task significance, autonomy, and feedback, as contextual ingredients which enhance thriving at work. Moving on to the consequences of thriving, Benson and Markland, in their research in 2007, found that thriving increases self-perceived employability and prevents aged workers from retiring. More positive perception of one's employability has a positive effect on problems related to aging population by keeping older workers longer into the workforce. Dermonti, in his research, found that it gives employees the energy to deal with challenges at work, leading to reduced burnout. A number of other consequences in terms of higher identification with the organization and enhanced commitment towards one's own work and organization was also found by Ghulam in one of his researches. Employees who perceive learning and concurrently feel energetic and vital at work are more likely to perceive their work environment for their self-development and goal attainment, which consequently boosts their intent to remain in the environment. Learning, on the other hand, builds intellectual capabilities of employees, which also enhances their performance. When workforce identifies that they have gathered adequate skills and knowledge through learning, they're helpful towards others at workplace, thus engage in citizenship behavior also. Vitality gives employees more motivation, energy to explore and facilitates and creates problem-solving, expansive cognitive thinking. In another research, Marchindiondo in 2018 in one of his researches found job satisfaction to be one of the consequences of thriving also. The study variables in my research are basically managerial support, which is a leadership style that creates positive feeling in the mind of the consumers, in the mind of the employees. Pro-social motivation is defined as a desire to put out effort to get advantage for the working of the employees in the organization. Affective commitment is a psychological tie that displays loyalty and obligation to the company, and collective thriving when individuals are learning and experiencing vitality as a group in the organization, they are said to be collectively thriving in the workplace. The overarching or the underlying theory which supports my entire framework is basically the social exchange theory. Social exchange theory basically advocates a reciprocity of relationship between the organization and the employees. When organization takes care of the employees, when organization takes care of their needs, employees tend to reciprocate in the same manner. So when an employee perceives his or her job as a means to fulfill his or her personal and professional needs, she wants to continue their job and feels an emotional attachment with the job. Therefore, in turn, the employee tries to benefit the organization and its members. The belief is that managers value their opinion, support them through thick and thin at work, make them adjust their own behaviors accordingly. Individuals who perceive high levels of managerial support at the workplace tend to respond to organization through high organizational commitment. Thriving at work acts as an internal tool to assess and evaluate one's own performance, which leads to increased effective commitment in employees. Thriving at work acts as a subjective reinforcement to identify with the organization and engage and involve in the task assigned. It also strengthens emotional ties with the organization. Teams that thrive are healthier, more productive, resilient, career-oriented, proactive, lifelong learners, and loyal to their employers. So the major hypothesis of my study is that pro-social motivation and collective thriving sequentially mediate the relationship between managerial support and effective commitment. The research design of my study was explanatory. It was type of investigation was causal. The study setting was natural. The unit of analysis was team. So this was basically the distinguishing factor of my research. Already existing research was majorly done at the individual level. The construct of thriving was taken at an individual level. In my study, it was taken as a collective level. The interference of the researcher was minimal, and the time horizon of the study was cross-sectional in nature. Moving on, the sample size of the study was 840. Individuals, number of items, the sample formula that was taken was number of items in the questionnaire multiplied by the multiple of 5, which was 20. So total 840 questionnaires were distributed, out of which 586 were usable for the study, which was around 70% of the response rate. Now, this is like one of the limitations as far as primary study is concerned. It's hard to get correct responses in order to run the analysis. The data collection was done through self-administered questionnaire. Two-wave data collection was done. Moving on to the results. The major participants of the study were female. Majority of them had an age between 21 to 30. The tenure of their working in the organization was 1 to 5 years, and majorly they were from the service industry. Further, to conduct the analysis, reliability analysis was conducted and convex alpha was calculated. The convex alpha of all the measures was greater than 0.8, was greater than 0.7, which is the threshold value. So the data was considered reliable for further analysis. Then, since it was a team level analysis, so aggregate analysis was done, which is like ICC1 and ICC2 were calculated. These are basically intra-class correlations. ICC1 basically test the proportion of variability at the individual level that can be attributed to group membership, and ICC2 basically refers to the reliability of the group level means. So they were all lying between 0 and 1, and they were the ICC2 was majorly taken, which was greater than 0.5, which shows moderate and high level of reliability. So that means the measures were reliable enough to conduct the further analysis. Then confirmatory factor analysis was done. All the indices were greater than their threshold values. They were a good fit. As a result, we moved on with the analysis. Convergent and discriminant validities were also calculated. Again, they were satisfying all the threshold values. Correlation analysis was also done, which is basically gives an initial support to all the hypotheses. The relationship between the variables in various hypotheses, the direct path showed positive correlation. Lastly, process Hayes was used to run the sequential mediation analysis. Model 4 of process Hayes was basically used to test all the path hypotheses. Managerial support, pro-social motivation, and collective thriving. The data can be seen on this particular slide. And lastly, the total indirect effect. The effect is 0.05. Although it is negligible, it is very small, yet it shows significance in boot, lower level confidence interval and upper level confidence interval are both positive, and they do not contain a zero in between. As a result, the result was found to be significant. Further depiction of this data can be seen through this theoretical framework, where managerial support affecting pro-social motivation is highly significant with a beta coefficient of 0.39. There is a significant positive relationship between pro-social motivation and collective thriving also. Collective thriving and effective commitment also show significant positive strong correlation. Whereas the dotted line between the managerial support and effective commitment shows that there was an insignificant relationship. So the direct relationship between the independent and dependent variable was not significant, although the mediating mechanism, in the presence of the mediating mechanisms of pro-social motivation and collective thriving, there was a relationship between the independent and dependent variable. So it shows full mediation of the mediators. This study is significant for both academia as well as industry practitioners. It helps expanding the existing research and organizational behavior. It provides the industrialist a deeper insight on how to develop a thriving workforce and utilize them to their full potential. Secondly, it helps employees in their own development, which in turn help them to develop factors that can significantly influence workplace success. This study has contributed to the body of knowledge on pro-social motivation also. It has been discovered to be a significant predictor of collective thriving, a working environment where people have an aptitude towards helping each other, develop a forward orientation to learn new skills and develop abilities collectively through information sharing and progress in their work. Organizations achieve better results when teams thrive collectively. When they're given new learning opportunities, they then consider paying back the organization through increased commitment and working for the interest of the organization. This is also supported by reciprocity ideology. When organizations invest in employees for their skill advancement, they in turn consider it obligatory to keep organizations' interest over and above their personal interest. Increased effective commitment by employees contribute to organizations' success and growth both. So practically, the managers at different organizations should develop formal mechanisms of meeting and discussions and extend their support towards employees. Secondly, another major initiative that should be taken at the corporate level in working environments is rewards based on teamwork rather than based on individual work. Apart from that, team building activity should be practiced in the organizations. There should be freedom to make decisions, which is empowering employees. Managerial support has one of the major dimension of having a certain level of transparency. That is sharing all kind of information with the employees and taking feedback from them and then making a final decision which should be implemented in the best interest of the organization. So that's how you empower employees also, and which is one of the aspects of managerial support. Coaching, training, and mentoring programs should be organized for the employees. And lastly, consistent feedback needs to be given in a positive manner, not criticism for the sake of criticism, rather criticism for the sake of improvement of the employee, so that employees can enhance the collective thriving level in the organization and eventually have high level of effective commitment towards the organization. Certain future directions for future studies: data should be collected from different sectors. Data should be collected in different cultures also in order to validate this research on collective thriving. Collective thriving can be linked to Hofstede analysis also, where we have 4 dimensions in terms of individualism, collectivism index, power distance index, uncertainty avoidance index. These cultural dynamics, how do they influence the collective thriving of employees in the organization? They should be studied also. The present study basically has taken cross-sectional research design. Future studies should take into account longitudinal designs also. Data should be collected from different sources. In this particular research, self-report data was taken. So as far as managerial support and all these variables are concerned, secondary sources data and other sources should also be taken into account in order to validate these results. New moderators and mediators should also be included for further research. Qualitative research can also be taken into account. Employees can be interviewed, or focus group studies can be done in order to investigate what are the other factors which can influence collective thriving of employees at the workplace. Then what effect do the work dynamics have on the collective thriving level of the employees? That should be investigated also. This research has strengthened the importance of collective thriving in the organization, which is the need of the hour and core element to build competitive advantage among firms in the industry. This study has tested group level model, which provided a comprehensive overview of the antecedents and consequences of collective thriving. The framework of a study has identified organizational contextual variable, which is managerial support, and individual characteristic, which is pro-social motivation, can jointly be used to ensure collective thriving of employees at the workplace with a positive outcome of effective commitment. So Angelo once said that my mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style. Surviving is important, but thriving is elegant. Thank you very much. This is the end of my presentation. Somehow my laptop was not working, so any inconvenience in the visuals of my slides through the mobile phone, I apologize for any inconvenience. Thank you very much. I'm open to questions.